Alright, Mother, as promised, your Sunday video. I know you're probably feeling like shit, stuck in the hospital. God only knows what ailment is messing with you now, but as usual, you shall overcome. I was going to read you a letter that I wrote. According to this, apparently when I was still 40, not 54 as I am now. But I just wanted to go back a little bit and touch on the last video I sent you about Bill Jenkins and having a mentor and being educated. Not necessarily educated traditional means, school, university, but practical education, whatever. Just not going about life like a dumbass. And I was thinking of one thing that Uncle Benji used to do that I picked up on late, and then something that Bill Jenkins used to do that I picked up on early but forgot. But I remember when I went, it wasn't the first time, but I think the second time I went to Boston to stay with Benji and Diane, Bobby, Barry, they were building, or they had built a garage or a barn or something. At the time, they were shingling the roof. That's kind of what, it was that job that started me on my career as a carpenter. I forget how, I was 7 or 9, I was young. They got me up on those walkboards, nailing shingles. And I just thought that was cool as shit. I was actually hammer in hand doing management. But the thing that, it wasn't that job, there was another job, probably the cottage or something, I forget. Benji was doing it. It was another 3-tab shingle thing. And in my ignorance, every time I did shingles, I would always start at one gable, pop my pine lines, run across, and at least 30 or 40% of the time, the building was such a size that when you got to the other gable, you were left with this little thin piece of part of the 3-tab. It looked like shit. It always fell off, broke. You're trying to cut the line down the rake of the gable and they tear. And one day I was just watching Benji. Again, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he measured the whole length of the house, did his division or whatever, and he popped his starting bond lines in a fashion. He had done the math to where you didn't end up with that little tit of a shingle, or even a two. He did his math to where both ends were almost perfectly symmetrical. It was kind of like he started at the middle and went each way. And I think about the time I figured out what he was doing was the time I figured out I never wanted to do shingles again. So I never really got to practice the method, but I understood the methodology. And The same thing holds true for Bill Jenkins. It's been so long since I built a structure with dimensional lumber, 2x10s or 2x8s or whatever the case may be. But back in the 80s, that's pretty much all you had. And it goes back to looking out for each other, subs or whatnot. But we would get on a site foundation and start putting the mud sills down, bolting to the foundation. As soon as the first we're bolting mud sills, and Bill Jenkins is right behind us, and the first thing he always did was locate the bathrooms. First marks on the mud sill were always center lines of the bathroom drains, bathroom walls, and the supply. And he would start his layout, and if it happened that a floor joist, as I've said, 16, 30, 40, 64, 80, let's say 80 landed in a drain line or supply, he would do what I referred to, and he referred to as X block X. He would back the layout up or forward, generally back to 78 and a half, I guess. If it was a supply. If it was a drain, he'd back it up further, because you had to get that 3-inch, 2-inch, whatever the hell it was, through the joist. And you can't, obviously, that's what all this shit, that's how all this stuff gets mucked up, started, is the framer and even the architects, even the structure, do not account for the subs and how they got to get their shit through there. Because I can go to Cat's plans right now, and on the cover sheet of the architectural, it says all walls parallel to joists must have a double joist underneath it. Well, you can't cut the top or bottom flange of a TJI. And if you stack two TJIs together underneath a wall that happens to be a bathroom wall with a supply line or a drain, how the fuck are you going to get it up there? So what happens is somebody goes in there with a sawzall or a chainsaw and they chop the joists all up, half-ass. Anyway, my point is, Bill thought about that shit. He would locate the supply, he would locate the drains, and he would adjust his framing joist to accommodate the plumber. Didn't take any more time, really. And it saved time when you had to come back because someone had butchered your floor. But as I pointed out, even today, 2022, almost 23, you got architects and engineers requiring double joist underneath the path of load of parallel walls. And if someone like myself or Hunter or whoever doesn't take it upon themselves to correct the architect and structure's mistake, someone's going to have a sawzall cutting the floor, and they're going to blame the framer. Anyway, I'm sidetracked. I think it's interesting, old school thought that's being lost now. Like Benji laying out his shingles so they're symmetrical, and Bill laying out his framing so you can get a supply line or a drain line or whatever through the floor. That is the art. That is the art of construction. Not just nailing two doors together. But thinking about Benji, talking about the Keens and Diane, I dug up the letter I wrote, which I'll read to you now. This is right after Diane passed away. I hope whoever reads this will grant me a little latitude because I've been struggling with my thoughts and emotion for weeks now. Imagine that, me having trouble with thoughts. So on my third or fourth attempt, I'm going to try a different direction. So, here we go. 40-some years ago, I was standing in what used to be a garage, then a bedroom for my great-grandmother, and then a living room at my granny and granddaddy's house. Dee Dee, as Chrissy and Jenny called it, grandfather to the Keens. I found myself peacefully rigid and trapped in a fenced triad of furniture, a recliner, a sofa, and a desk. A simple enough enclosure to escape for the average pre-tween, but not for me. I was completely enthralled by a myriad of framed photos over my granny daddy's desk. There were so many. All different types, frames, people and sizes. I knew most of the people, and even at my young age, I could make connections to the old black and whites that were familiar strangers. But there was one that left me completely puzzled. It was a frame bigger than a legal pad, but smaller than a sketch pad. Not dead center of his desk, but about at 1:30. With the center of the frame being at the center of the hour hand. Pretty close to the nucleus of the cell as a whole. Of course, it was a family portrait, but a family I didn't know. Who are they, I thought, stealing peanuts from the can beside the recliner? They don't look like me. They don't look like my family. But they were. They were the beginning, the first of a new family that preceded my memories, but will remain in my memories today. Who would have ever thought that in a pruned limb of a family tree, a rock-banging, deer-killing, fire-making redneck like me would be related to a stunning, beautiful, dark-haired mother from the north, of twin girls, of remarkable beauty and likeness, and a carefree, loving, jovial redhead who, to my knowledge, has never harmed, betrayed, or denied anyone, and a tall, dark, smirking playboy whose antics and attitude kept everyone in check with reality, but knew the strongest foothold is close to the trunk. And speaking of the trunk, or major limb in one hell of a big tree, there's Benji. All I'll say about Benji to express my thoughts is this. His grandmother imprinted her hand in wet concrete at Nana's, as I knew, garage. I think I got the story right. Benji once showed me by placing his hand in the impression, stretching and compressing as best he could to remotely fill the void. That's how big his heart is. That's how deep his love penetrates. It begs to question, how do the 7-year-old memories of a 48-year-old man validate the character of the subjects in a mysterious picture frame? Well, the answer is simply this. I do not write of the nicety of strangers in a photo, with a polite eulogy of a distant, unknown aunt. I am writing a mournful letter to myself. A letter that reminds me not of all I have lost at the passing of a mother, Diane, a aunt, a sister, a wife, but a letter that mourns all the things I am that she was. I know what I'm not, and I know what I am. Because my mother and Diane, stepsisters on each side of the prune, made sure that no one on that wall would be strangers. Damn. The strength of severed sisters, Joyce, Brenda, Diane, became the bond of united mothers. Be it in oil paintings, crochet doilies, black and white photos, or palm prints in cement, the Keens, the Bakers, and the Isbells made it a point of keeping this family together. Just like Uncle Ronnie would go up on summers to help Benji, so would I. And no one can argue what effect it had on me. Molded from memories. Wake up with Bobby. Lori and Beth make breakfast. Diane makes lunch. Go to work in a bread truck, hammer in hand. More shingles, Harry. Hairy asshole. Ride home in a bread truck. Catch rainbow trout in a ditch. Get thrown from Easter, their pony. Get stepped on by Dixie, their Shetland pony. Get horned in the ass by a goat. Ride go-kart to Dover Square without Diane catching me. Oh, God, bless, I don't know how I survived. Ride motorcycle to four-way stop without Benji catching me. Talk shit to Barry and get thrown in a pool. Lori and Beth defend me against Tommy and cigarettes. Get chased by a wild animal in a canoe at midnight in New Hampshire. Flipped the canoe over by myself on the other side of the lake with no PFD. I was cold. Didn't get caught. Build tree houses. Ride Harleys with Barry. Steal fruit with Bobby. Horse-drawn carriage for Dixie, little Shetland pony they had. We'd go up to some farm and pick apples and pears. Bobby would buy me a balloon. I was like, man, this guy's really cool. Buy me a balloon. The balloon was to hide the fact that we had all the apples. Oh. Stare with amazement and wonder at piles of tools, trucks, shit, and debris. But mostly going to work in a bread truck. All these experiences were provided by the efforts of Diane and my mother. And with some efforts provided by my father. Look at what I've become. A redneck carpenter. Hammer in hand. Surrounded by tools, trucks, and shit. 3 dogs instead of 3 horses. 3 kids messed up on the twin board. I don't talk shit to people bigger than me. I don't smoke. I carry a gun for wild animals. I don't do shingles, but I do build tree houses. I want to go and wish I had a bread truck. I spent a lot of time talking about my memories, experiences, and photographs, and not so much about Diane. But in the end, I think that's okay. We all knew Diane. We all have our own memories to share. But as I said, this is more of a letter to myself, a remembrance of what I am, but still in the shadow of what partially created me. I will always miss her, but the fact of the matter is, as corny as it sounds, she is still here. If I want to see her again, all I have to do is get off my ass and visit. Go see Benji, Bobby, Mary, Lori, and Dad. Which I need to do. Maybe this spring. I don't know. I got fucking surgery yet. We'll see how that goes. Alright. Another Sunday read for you. Hope you enjoy. Get better and get out of that damn hospital.